My name is Glenn, and I'm 28 years old. I used to live in Seattle working for a video game development company. It was a fantastic job. The pay was good, the projects were interesting, and my coworkers were cool. I had my own apartment, my own life. I was doing well for myself. Then everything changed in an instant. My father's company suddenly went bankrupt. He had worked there for 20 years, and overnight, it was just gone. There was no severance package, no warning, nothing. My parents were in a complete panic. They had a mortgage, bills piling up, and no savings to speak of. My mother called me crying. She begged me to come home and help them out. She said they needed me, that the family was falling apart. What was I supposed to do? Tell my own parents no? So I packed up my life in Seattle and moved back to my hometown, right back into my parents' house. It was the same house I had left 6 years ago when I went off to college. My younger sister, Madison, was already living there. She's 26, just 2 years younger than me. Madison didn't have a job. She claimed she was looking for one, but that search had been going on for months with absolutely no results. The plan seemed simple enough. I would work remotely for my company in Seattle and contribute to the household expenses until my dad found a new job. It was supposed to be temporary help, just until they could get back on their feet. That was a year ago. My dad still hasn't found any steady work. Madison still doesn't have a job, and I'm still here, paying for everything. I give my parents $3,000 a month to cover household expenses. That's half of my salary. The other half goes toward my student loans and the few personal expenses I have left. My parents and Madison act like this is completely normal, like I'm just supposed to support all of them. Nobody ever says thank you. Nobody acknowledges the fact that I'm the one keeping this family afloat. They just take my money and spend it. One evening last week, I was in my room working when my mother knocked on the door. "Glenn, can you come downstairs for a minute?" she asked. I saved my work and went down to the kitchen. My mother and Madison were there. Madison was just scrolling through her phone, not even bothering to look up. "What's going on?" I asked. "Madison wants ribeye steaks for dinner tonight," my mother said. "But we've already used up this month's food budget. Can you add some extra money?" I just stared at her. "What? I already gave you $3,000 this month." "I know, but prices have gone up," Madison said, finally looking up from her phone. $3,000 isn't enough for a family of 4 anymore. "Then maybe you should get a job and buy your own steaks," I said. "The job market is tough," my mother said. "She's trying." Madison wasn't trying. I knew that for a fact. She spent her days sleeping in, watching TV, and hanging out with her friends. The job search was just an excuse. "Maybe we should consider moving," I suggested. "We could sell this house and move to Portland. Grandma has that successful restaurant there. Maybe she could help Dad find work, and we wouldn't need such a big house." My mother's face changed immediately. "Absolutely not. We're not moving to Portland. Your grandmother is very strict. She'd have us all working constantly. I can't handle that kind of physical labor." What she really meant was that Grandma would call Madison out for being lazy, and my mother didn't want to deal with that confrontation. My father came home from wherever he'd been that day. He walked into the kitchen and immediately sensed the tension. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Glenn thinks we should move to Portland and ask your mother for help," my mother said. "We don't need help from my mother," my father said. "We're all contributing equally to the household budget. We're managing fine." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "Equally?" I said. "Are you serious? I'm the only one working. Madison sits at home doing nothing all day. Madison helps around the house," my mother said defensively. "How exactly does she help?" I asked. My father cleared his throat. "Well, she takes her dishes to the sink after meals. She washes her own clothes, and she gives your mother shoulder massages sometimes." I was speechless. That was it. That was her contribution. "Let me tell you what I do," I said, my voice getting louder. "I wake up early every morning and cook breakfast for everyone. I make Dad's lunch. I work a full-time job from my bedroom. I handle all our tax payments. I give you $3,000 a month. And you're telling me Madison's contribution is putting dishes in the sink?" "You don't need to be dramatic," my mother said. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being realistic. Madison needs to get a job, any job, part-time, full-time, I don't care. But she needs to contribute. We'll talk about this later, my father said, ending the conversation the way he always did when things got uncomfortable. I went back to my room, furious. This wasn't a new dynamic. Madison had always been the favorite. Ever since we were kids, my parents treated her differently. When Madison was in high school and wanted to quit the soccer team because it was too much work, my parents let her. When I wanted to quit the debate team for the same reason, they made me stick with it, saying I needed to learn commitment. When Madison got a C in math, my parents hired her an expensive tutor. When I got a C in chemistry, they just told me to study harder. It had always been this way. Madison was pretty and charming, and my parents adored her. I was just Glenn, the responsible one who did what he was told. And now, here I was, 28 years old, back in my childhood home, supporting my entire family while Madison got massages and ate ribeye steaks on my dime. A few days later, I came home from running errands and noticed Madison wasn't around. "Where's Madison?" I asked my mother. "Oh, she's out with friends," my mother said vaguely. I didn't think much of it until the next day when Madison still wasn't home, or the day after that. On the third day, I got home late after meeting a friend for coffee. My parents were in the living room, and I could hear them talking as I came through the front door. I stopped in the hallway, listening. "She's having such a wonderful time in the Bahamas," my mother said. "That lottery win was so lucky," my father replied. "The Bahamas? A lottery win?" I walked into the living room. "Madison is in the Bahamas?" My parents looked startled. "Oh, Glenn, yes, she won a trip through some contest online. When did this happen?" "A few days ago. It was very last minute." I didn't say anything, but I was confused. How was Madison affording a vacation in the Bahamas? Even with a free trip, she'd need money for food, activities, shopping. The next day, I got my answer. My phone rang around noon. It was an unknown number, but the caller ID said it was from my credit card company. "Hello, is this Glenn Martinez?" a woman's voice asked. "I'm calling from the fraud department. We've noticed some unusual activity on your card. $10,000 has been charged over the past 3 days, all from the Bahamas. We wanted to verify if this was you or if your card has been stolen." My stomach dropped. "No, I haven't lost my card. I'm not in the Bahamas." "I see. Let me go over the charges with you. There's a luxury hotel, several high-end restaurants, designer shopping at multiple boutiques, water sports activities, and spa services. Madison. It had to be Madison." "I know who did this," I said. "It's my sister." I thanked the woman and hung up. Then I immediately called Madison. She answered on the third ring. I could hear beach sounds in the background. "Hey, what's up?" she said casually. "Did you take my credit card?" "Oh yeah, I borrowed it. No big deal." "No big deal? You spent $10,000. Come on, Glenn, we're family. It's not like it's a crime or anything. You work from home all day anyway. It's not like you go anywhere or spend money on anything. I figured you wouldn't even notice." I was so angry I could barely speak. "You had no right to take my card. Whatever. I needed it for the trip. The activities here are expensive and the shopping is amazing. I got some really nice stuff. Look, I have to go. We're about to go parasailing. Talk to you later." She hung up. I opened my banking app immediately and blocked the card. Then I just sat there shaking with rage. 2 hours later, my parents came home. They didn't knock. They just burst into my room. "What did you do?" my mother shouted. "You blocked your card and got Madison in trouble," my father added. "She stole from me," I said. "She spent $10,000 without asking. She wanted to buy us souvenirs," my mother said. "But when she tried to pay, the card was declined. So she took the souvenirs anyway, and the police arrested her for shoplifting." "That's not my problem," I said. My father's phone rang. He answered it, and I could hear Madison's voice screaming through the speaker, even from across the room. He put her on speaker. "Glenn, you need to unlock that card right now," Madison yelled. "I'm in so much trouble here, the police are involved. Mom and Dad's cards aren't working either because I already used all their money." My parents' faces went pale. They both pulled out their phones and started checking their bank accounts. "Madison, how much did you spend from our accounts?" my father asked, his voice tight. I don't know. Everything that was there. A few thousand from each of you. My mother started crying. My father looked like he might pass out. You emptied our accounts? My mother said. All of our money? I needed it for the trip. Why is everyone making such a big deal about this? My parents were furious. They started yelling at Madison through the phone. She yelled back. It was chaos. Then my mother collapsed into a chair, clutching her chest. My heart, she gasped. If something happens to Madison over there, I'll never forgive myself. Or you, Glenn. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Please help your sister. We'll change. We promise we'll change. Just help her this one time. My father nodded. We know we've taken advantage of you. We know Madison has been irresponsible, but she's in real trouble. She needs help. I looked at both of them. They seemed genuinely distressed. Fine, I said. I'll send $3,000 to Mom's account. You two can fly to the Bahamas and get Madison out of whatever mess she's in. Thank you, my mother said, relief washing over her face. Thank you so much. I transferred the money immediately. Then I booked them plane tickets on my laptop. They would leave the next morning. My parents spent the evening packing frantically. They were so focused on rescuing Madison that they didn't notice me making phone calls from my room. The next morning, they left for the airport before dawn. I waved goodbye from the front door. As soon as their car disappeared down the street, I picked up my phone and called my grandmother. It's done, I said. They're gone. Good, Grandma Rosa said. Are you ready to proceed? I'm ready. 3 weeks ago, I had called my grandmother and told her everything. About the money, about Madison, about how my parents enabled her, about how exhausted I was. Grandma had listened quietly. Then she had said, I'm tired of their arrogance. That house they're living in, it's mine. I own it. I let them live there, but I never transferred the deed. I think it's time to sell it and teach them all a lesson. But I need your help. So, we had made a plan. I had contacted a realtor who Grandma knew. The realtor had found buyers quickly, a young couple who loved the house and made a good offer. We had been working on the paperwork for weeks, just waiting for the right moment. While my parents were in the Bahamas rescuing Madison, I met with the realtor and the buyers. We signed all the final documents. The house was sold. The new owners were happy to let me stay for 2 more weeks to handle the transition. They were nice people, understanding about the situation. I arranged for a moving company to pack up my parents' and Madison's belongings and ship them to my grandmother's house in Portland. Then I packed my own things. It wasn't much, really. Just my clothes, my laptop, and a few personal items. 3 days later, my family came home. They walked through the front door looking exhausted. My parents had dark circles under their eyes. Madison looked sunburned and annoyed. That was a nightmare, my father said, dropping his suitcase in the hallway. Madison walked past me without saying hello. She went straight to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Thanks for the money, Glenn, she called out. At least I got to finish my vacation after we dealt with all that legal stuff. I noticed she wasn't carrying any shopping bags. No souvenirs for anyone. You're welcome, I said flatly. My parents collapsed on the couch. My mother kicked off her shoes. We need to rest, she said. That was the most stressful 3 days of my life. Actually, we need to talk, I said. It can't wait. They looked at me, confused by my tone. I sold the house while you were gone, I said. There was complete silence. Madison came out of the kitchen with a yogurt in her hand. What? My mother said finally. The house is sold. The deal closed yesterday. The new owners are moving in 2 weeks. You can't do that, my father said, standing up. This is my house. No, it's not, I said calmly. It's Grandma's house. It's always been Grandma's house. She never transferred the deed to you. She owns it, and she decided to sell it. My father pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking as he dialed. We all waited while it rang. Mom, he said when she answered, Glenn is saying you sold the house. That's not true, right? I could hear my grandmother's voice, sharp and clear, even through the phone. My father's face went pale. "But Mom," he tried to say, "Mom, please." He hung up and looked at my mother. She did it. She really sold the house. Madison dropped her yogurt. "Where are we supposed to live?" "Grandma has made arrangements," I said. "All your belongings have already been packed and shipped to Portland. You're going to live with her." "No," Madison said immediately. "I'm not living with Grandma Rosa. She'll make me work at that restaurant." "Exactly," I said. "This is insane," my mother said. "We can't just move to Portland and work at your grandmother's restaurant. I'm not built for that kind of physical labor." "You don't have much choice," I said. "You have no money. Dad has no job. Madison has no job. Grandma is offering you a place to live and work. You should take it." "What about you?" my father asked. "I'm going back to Seattle. I already contacted my old landlord, and he has an apartment available. I'm moving back." "You're abandoning us?" my mother said. "I'm leaving. There's a difference. I've supported you for a year, and all I got in return was being taken advantage of. Madison stole $10,000 from me. You've enabled her behavior for her entire life. I'm done." "Glenn, please," my father said. "We can work this out. We'll change. Madison will get a job. You've had a year to change. You didn't." "We need more time," my mother pleaded. "Time's up," I said. "The moving truck will be here tomorrow to take the last of your things. You can either drive to Portland or you can stay here and be evicted by the new owners in 2 weeks. Your choice." I walked upstairs to my room. My suitcases were already packed and sitting by the door. I'd been ready to leave since yesterday. I heard them arguing downstairs. Madison was crying. My parents were yelling at each other, but I didn't care anymore. The next morning, I called a taxi to take me to the airport. I came downstairs with my bags. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table. They looked defeated. "What are we supposed to do?" my mother asked. "Go to Grandma's, work at the restaurant, learn to support yourselves." Madison appeared in the doorway. "This is all your fault," she said to me. "You ruined everything. No, Madison, you ruined everything when you stole my credit card and spent $10,000. You've been ruining things your whole life by refusing to grow up." The taxi honked outside. I picked up my bags and walked to the door. "Goodbye," I said. "Good luck in Portland." I didn't look back as I got into the taxi. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The flight to Seattle was peaceful. I looked out the window at the clouds and felt lighter than I had in a year. My old landlord met me at the apartment building. Mr. Chen was a nice man in his 60s who'd always been fair with me. "Welcome back, Glenn," he said, handing me the keys. "It's good to see you again." "It's good to be back," I said. I unpacked my things and set up my laptop. Then I emailed my boss to let him know I was back in Seattle and would be working from the office again instead of remotely. A few days later, I got a call from my grandmother. "They arrived last night," she said, "your parents and Madison. They looked miserable. I bet they did. I put them to work this morning." Madison complained the entire time, but she did what I told her. "Your parents are learning the ropes in the kitchen and the front of house." "How long do you think it'll take?" I asked. "To teach them responsibility? Maybe a few months, maybe longer." "We'll see." My grandmother had also arranged something else. Madison would be paying me back the $10,000 from her salary at the restaurant. Small amounts at first, but it would all come back eventually. And my parents would be paying rent, $1,000 a month to live in my grandmother's house. Grandma was sending that money directly to me. "Consider it back payment for the year you supported them," she'd said. My life in Seattle fell back into a comfortable rhythm. I went to the office during the day, came home to my own apartment at night. I bought groceries for myself. I paid my own bills. Nobody asked me for money. It was exactly what I needed. A few weeks passed, then a month, then 2 months. My grandmother would call me occasionally with updates. Madison was actually showing up for work every day. My parents were learning the business. They were all changing slowly but surely. "Madison is starting to understand what real work means," Grandma told me. "She's not happy about it, but she's doing it." I was glad to hear it, but I wasn't ready to forgive them yet. Maybe someday, but not now. A few more months went by. I settled into my life in Seattle completely. Work was going great. I got a raise and a promotion. My boss was impressed with my productivity now that I wasn't dealing with family drama. I started going out with coworkers after work. I joined a gym. I took a weekend trip to Vancouver just because I could. For the first time in over a year, I was living my own life. My grandmother kept me updated on the family situation. Madison was working full shifts at the restaurant now. My parents had learned the business and were actually contributing. Madison is different, Grandma told me during one call. She complains less. She shows up on time. She's even started helping train new staff. That's good to hear, I said. Your parents are different too. They understand now what it takes to run a household and earn money. They're more humble. I'm glad they're learning. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Madison. Glenn, it's me, Madison said. Her voice was different, quieter, less entitled. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I was hoping we could meet. I want to apologize in person. I owe you that much. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, but another part was curious to see if she had really changed. Okay, I said finally. I can come to Portland next Saturday. Really? Thank you. There's a cafe near Grandma's restaurant. I'll text you the address. The following Saturday, I drove to Portland. It felt strange being back in my home state after months away. The cafe was small and cozy. Madison was already there, sitting at a table by the window. She stood up when she saw me. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a plain sweater, no designer labels. She looked tired, but healthier somehow. We ordered coffee. The silence was awkward. I'm sorry, Madison said suddenly. For everything. For stealing your credit card. For spending your money. For being a selfish brat my entire life. I didn't say anything, just listened. Working at Grandma's restaurant has been hard, she continued. Really hard. I've never worked like this before. My feet hurt every day. I'm exhausted all the time. But it's taught me something. How much you sacrificed for us. You worked hard every day and gave us half your salary, and we didn't appreciate it at all. We took it for granted. I took everything for granted. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. She slid it across the table to me. $5,000. It's what I still owe you. I've been paying you back in small amounts from my salary like Grandma arranged, but I wanted to give you the rest now. I earned it working at the restaurant. I opened the envelope. It was full of cash. I know it doesn't make up for what I did, Madison said, but it's a start. And I promise I'll keep working to be better, to be someone you can be proud of. Her eyes were watering. She wiped them quickly. Thank you, I said, taking the envelope. We talked for another hour. She told me about working at the restaurant, about how Grandma was strict but fair, about how she was taking online courses to learn restaurant management. I might actually have a career path now, she said with a small smile. When we finished our coffee, we hugged briefly. It wasn't the same as before, but it was something. I drove to my grandmother's house next. My parents were there, and when they saw me, they both stood up immediately. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. We're so sorry, my father said, for everything we put you through, for taking advantage of you, for favoring Madison all those years, for not seeing what we were doing to you. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. You deserved so much better from us. We were terrible parents to you. We're trying to change, my father added. We're working hard, we're learning, and we hope that someday you can forgive us. I appreciate that, I said, and I can see you're making an effort, but it's going to take time. We understand, my mother said. We sat and talked for a while. They told me about their work at the restaurant, about their small apartment, about how they'd created a budget and were sticking to it. That evening after my parents left, I sat with my grandmother in her living room. You did a good thing, I said. Thank you for helping them. They needed to learn, Grandma said. And so did you. You needed to learn that it's okay to put yourself first, that you don't have to sacrifice everything for people who don't appreciate you. She was right. Grandma stood up and went to her desk. She came back with an envelope. This is for you, she said, handing it to me. I opened it. Inside was a check for $50,000. Grandma, I can't take this. Yes, you can. Use it for a down payment on a condo in Seattle. Get a mortgage. Build your life. You've worked hard. You've been responsible. This is my gift to you. I hugged her tightly. Thank you, Grandma, for everything. I drove back to Seattle that night with the check in my purse. $50,000 for a down payment on my own place. A month later, I bought a small condo in Seattle. 1 bedroom, nice view, close to work. It was mine, completely mine. My family and I still talk occasionally. Madison calls sometimes to update me on her progress. My parents send texts on holidays. We're rebuilding, slowly, carefully. I don't know if we'll ever have the relationship we once had, but maybe that's okay. Maybe this new relationship built on honesty and respect is better. I'm happy now. Really happy. I have my own place, my career, my freedom, and I have a family that's finally learning what it means to stand on their own 2 feet. It took selling a house and moving them across the state to make it happen, but it was worth it. End of story.